Hello everyone, this is Austyn Wiles, and this is my weekly update on my Unreal Engine project. As you can, I meant to do this yesterday, but unfortunately due to some time constraints and kind of losing track of time, and also working on other projects, which I'll get into later, it's a day late, so I'll just begin this now and kind of walk you through what I've done. This is work I've done over the past about week or so in terms of and what I was doing is watching tutorials on what exactly it is I want to do. Having to relearn how to do the terrain again, but that didn't take long to remember. And also modifying the character to what I wanted in some other projects. So for one, I guess I'll go over what I changed with the character. It's not exactly what I want, but it is. If for now, it'll do. And what it added was this double jump. That's nothing too crazy if you know how anything about the Unreal Engine. It's just changing one value. But what I also add in is this dashing system. So when you're just staying on the ground, press shift, the character will kind of dash forward a little bit. But what I really like is that when you're in the air, you kind of go flying. It's not exactly how I want it to be. I wanted to dash more similar to something like, say, Devil May Cry, if anyone's familiar with that, where in which it's like the character just drops off immediately. But for what I'm doing now, it's fine. For now, I guess I'll walk you through the map. So the idea is that this is kind of like a fantasy environment, and this would be like the hub world. So it'd be where you get like all your items and go from level to level. This is where you would start at. I had the idea of having 3 tents right here, just to show some form of villagers, and also like this is the starting area, and this is literally where you begin. You're a bit more rugged and not exactly welcomed by the village. And what I want to do right over here is I gotta find the assets, but I do think I think I know what I'm going to. It might just clash with the rest of the game in terms of detail. Is I want to put a farm right here, and that's because I do want, even though it won't be functional for the case of this demo, because this is all about showcasing environment design. Um, I want this to be like for like the final game. I want it to be a little like something you can do on the side is like do a farming mini game, and like you would get resources, be able to sell them and such like that. But that's something more much later down the line, and again, it's more like a side activity, and that's actually what this barn's for, is to like hold all your resources and such. Again, everything so far temporarily, it's nothing put into place. Like all these white walkways are just those are not going to be in the final game. It's more just to get a visual idea. Um, it's going to be more something like, let's say, this bridge, for instance. So, like right over here, this would be like a little river type area that would just add some more to it. Similarly, the shrubbery. I'm still looking through all the assets to figure out which was what. But yeah, I guess I'll do a quick walkthrough. What the idea is that this building right here would be the inn slash like tavern or the like mission hub. So this is where you'll get missions and such like that. Forgot to delete that cube, but I'll do that later. And again, all the white blocks are just temporarily, but it's like you would climb up the stairs, and this is where you would be able to stay the night or get health. I'm still playing on how I want to design this, and honestly, the interior for the buildings is kind of like secondary. So yeah, and you'll see like a lot of placeholder images. I found this fish, and I might want to use that for like a platform. But so going past that, like in the center area, you'll have this like this crest. I think it actually might be a Chinese mirror is what it's called. I can't remember what the asset's called itself. But this would be kind of like a main centerpiece of the game. If I have time, I'll program it to where in which it will actually move depending on how you progress. But for now, this is all about getting the levels done. As you can see, I still have to look through all the assets because originally this was going to be like the center. But yeah, this one has no collision on it. And I kind of don't want to deal with that right now just because I'm on a little bit of a time constraint. But one other thing in this town is the armor shop, and this is where, I mean, this is what it sounds like. This is where you get armor and items. The idea is there would be one seller here for like armor and clothing, and another seller would be like for items, for the other items. It's kind of inspired by Mario Odyssey, to where in which like they have 2 different kinds of shops, but they're both either extremely close to each other or just straight up in the same store, so the player doesn't have to constantly wander around the map. As you can see, just like some little placeholder stuff to kind of get an idea. Also, another thing, like, this isn't a placeholder per se, but it's just like some of the terrain I want to put down. I want to make this a bit more grass-like, but I mean, as I say that, I'm also kind of getting ideas for like, if I can find beach assets, I might want to make it like to where right over here, there's like more of a beach. So, we'll just see about that. But for now, like, the idea is this hub world will take you to about 3 different levels. If anyone's ever played classic platformers like Mario 64, or what the influence for this is Jack and Daxter, that's kind of the idea I'm going for. I want to eventually make like an action game, specifically like an action RPG with like quests and like hub areas and stuff like that. But for now, this is more just a good idea. The idea of this part right here is that even though you could like all the levels are technically open, they will be locked off by your abilities, because I kind of like that idea for a platformer more rather than just like having keys. So in this case, you would have to double jump, and it's about as simple as it sounds. Like this would be the first level ideally, and it would be very like it'd be a lot more simplistic just in terms like you're still trying to teach the player how to move and stuff like that, and you're not going to put them into an extreme scenario. Again, these orange like buildings are just temporarily. And then this would be level 2. This one I kind of like. I'm still looking for assets, but I think I found some. I downloaded on Epic Games Store. They have a pack based off. I think it's Edith Finch, and the developers put that up there for free. And they have some rock environments. Unfortunately, looking through some of them, it's like the collisions a little weird, but regardless, it's still what I want to look for. And this one would require the player to be forced to use the dash mechanic. So in order to like, you can't get across. Otherwise, well, I mean, I say that you can double jump, but I'll make sure to like balance that to where in which you'll have to like move a bit further. I'll just have to like update that part of the level. But yeah, and so this would be level 2, kind of just some cave environments for now. I hopefully will add dynamic lighting. I think I should be getting a new computer tomorrow, so I will be able to handle that a lot more. Um, and this one right here, we'll actually get to that in the next level, which is, this is 2 things I implemented. Pretty simple things to implement, but regardless, I'm still happy of it. You'll see this like little wall right here, and this is supposed to be like sort of a castle, like entrance type thing. And what this will do is it will teleport you, if you're wondering why is that like orange square there? Well, teleports you to this room. And what this does is, like, this would be basically like the third or final level tour, which it would be a lot more like ambient, or I mean, they're all ambient, but this one's more of like a castle design. It looks a lot more man-made compared to the other two. It's supposed to give off this feeling of like being a final level. I'm hoping to play around with some lighting stuff, like different color lighting and stuff like that. I would love to put some mosaic mirrors, I mean, not mirrors, windows in there, but I mean, that's that. Like, and that's actually part of like what the fish was for, is that I'm thinking about using that for like a movie platform or like a stationary platform, like just to kind of add this surreal element to it. And yeah, and this is another thing that's added in is moving platforms themselves. For now, this is just a temporarily one. The white cube is gonna be deleted, but for the sake of testing, it's just here. But yeah, this is basically what I've done so far in like the week or two. Again, I kind of like gotten off track of like some other things. I've started to like get into like, so yeah, you can like adjust the size. I've been starting to get into like narrative design in terms of, because I realize I do want to like, when I make my own game, I want to make my own stories for it, and or at least be a part of the story process in some way. And I saw there were some job offers and opportunities to where in which they're like, one of the things they ask for is 3 examples of your past writing work. And thankfully I have 2 from college that I'm really proud of. There's some like minor spelling errors and such, but they're nothing too hard to fix. But I'm really happy with how those turned out. And so kind of like motivated by this one person I saw online who got a job writing games from being a journalist. Um, I decided to kind of take up writing as a free hobby of mine. It's almost, I kind of lose track of it. But yeah, I currently have 7 out of 10 pages of like this shorts of this story idea I have. It would just be like probably like chapter 3, or yeah, like chapter 2 or chapter 3 of the story. And I'm just sort of writing that down, and it's almost finished. It's kind of like based off this like dream project idea I had. But yeah, I think next week I'll have more to share of that. Next week I also plan on like, so next Monday or next Tuesday, I should have all the levels prototyped out, and what I mean is like we'll just have placeholder images and stuff like that. And then after that it'll be just a matter of getting things like, in terms of like finding the assets I want to use, because I do have a lot to work with. Greenwood Fantasy, Geometry, and all these are taken from the Epic Game Store. These were like packs they that are free or that were given out for free at one point or another. But even though it's like you are given the assets, you still like there's not exactly always what you want to work with, and like what I mean, for instance, is like some of them the collision's just like a bit off, or at least it's not what I'm looking for. Like for instance, this one right here, this one is ideally technically perfect, but I guess while I'm doing that. But that one at the bottom, I'll show it like right now. The collision is just like really off, and I'm assuming that's because it's more like meant for an environment. Um, yeah, so that's kind of the idea with that. But yeah, so for instance, you're just standing like 10 feet above the ground, and that's not what I want for this game. Um, I want the collision to at least look like it's somewhat there, so yeah, like that's definitely going to get removed. But for now, I mean, I'm just keeping it there to get some visual aesthetics. But yeah, anyway, I mean, this is what I've done so far. I think next week, if I'll like when I'm going over how the levels are going to function, I might go over some of the story ideas I have in mind and the ones I'm going to submit for job applications. But yeah, for now, this is what it is. I guess one last thing is like this. The idea with this is it'll be kind of like a forest right over here. It'll be more of like a cave. You can kind of get a glimpse of that right here. The only problem with the forest one is the fact that there's the trees right here are not exactly what we want, but I think what I plan on doing is the way the planes work, for anyone who doesn't know, is that they're only viewable from one side. So, like what I mean, for instance, it's invisible. However, and if I unfortunately, the shadow is still there, so that'll be something to keep in mind. Or, no, it's not. Sorry about this. I'm going to try and make this quick. Yeah, that's not going to work exactly what I thought, but I'll figure out something. Oh, wait. Actually. Okay, yeah, that can work. What I plan on doing is I think I'm going to reuse these trees. Originally, I wasn't going to use them for platforms, and that's because they kind of have a more of a pill-shaped hitbox, which means that unlike this, where much if you're, well, I mean, you can kind of see it with the character. The character has a pill-shaped hitbox, which means that if they start going off, they'll like kind of slowly fall off, and I can really kind of jack with precise physics on platformers, and it's something that like just to keep in mind that it's like for me at least personally, I think a square hitbox is a lot better for what your character for like just precise controls and precision. But for the case of this demo, I'm not too worried about that because another example is like the Crash Insane Trilogy uses pill-shaped hitboxes, and that can kind of cause it to where it's like if you are like just like if you're halfway on a platformer, Crash will just like slip off of it. So it's just something to keep in mind. But yeah, that is essentially my weekly update. I hope to share more. I hope to get Again, I hope to get like at least two of the level, like hopefully all the levels prototyped at the very minimum two, because that's basically what I want to like have shown off for the game. And then yeah, I'll get on to actually like modeling this thing. And one other thing is like for the terrain, I plan on like making this like a bunch of hills or like walls to like cover up some of the other things because I want the levels to be seamless. So that's why I'm not having them loaded. But yeah, thank you all for watching. If you want any more updates, please subscribe or check out my website. It's the same as my username, and I'll put a link in the description below. Have a nice one. Bye.